Welcome to this edition of Talking Outdoors. I'm Rami Rasamny, team leader with Life Happens Outdoors, and today we're talking about Find Yourself in Nepal. Find Yourself adventures are adventures that are really designed for anybody with a pulse. So what that means is you're not necessarily going to do anything particularly physically challenging, although you're going to be in incredible places, do incredible things, and really have like an all-round adventure holiday. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing something super exciting, or maybe even something that's challenging from another perspective. Like for instance, it's very common to paraglide or whitewater raft or do some biking or maybe go down, kayak down a wild river. These are all part of the Find Yourself experiences. But of course, they are very different from, say, going to Kilimanjaro in that the challenge, the physical challenge of it is slightly toned down. And we expect that most people who are joining us are probably doing these activities for the very first time. So it really is designed for anybody who wants to just go out there, have a holiday that's different, to feel great, to be in touch with nature, to really enjoy brand new activities, something that you may have never done before, and to of course, to come back different. Our very first day starts with a wild ride out into the Nepali wilderness, where we're going to whitewater raft in the direction of Pokhara. That's a completely insane environment. The rivers are gigantic. The rapids are amazing. It can be quite relaxing at times as well. And then we head to Bandipur, where we spend the night. It's a beautiful, beautiful cultural village in the central Himalayas, just in the foothills of some of the largest mountains in the world. And then we continue on and there are days where we're trekking, there are days where we're paragliding, there are days where we're zip lining. And of course, every single day on this adventure starts and ends with yoga. In fact, the Find Yourself in Nepal trip is led at all times by a yoga guru, and that means yoga sessions every morning, every evening, sometimes meditation in places that just feel like it's the right place to do it. It's even possible to have one-on-one sessions in the middle of beautiful trails. So every day is very different, every day is very exciting, but one thing you can rely on is that there's going to be a strong element of this meditation, find yourself, really like kind of balancing out some of these wilder experiences with much more kind of inward looking work, and that's what makes this itinerary so exciting. So to answer the question, no 2 days are the same. They're very different, but of course we start and end with yoga. That's a staple of this trip. On all of our Find Yourself itineraries, there is no requirement to have any prior knowledge of any of the activities that we do on this experience. So you don't have to know how to raft before showing up. You don't have to know how to paraglide. You don't have to know how to do yoga. You don't have to know how to do, yeah, you have to walk. That's pretty much it. So yeah, we teach you how to do everything as part of this trip. And the assumption is that everyone who's joining is really doing this for the first time. And so we'll give you the instructions, we'll show you how to do things. And the way that we run it is very much geared towards people who are doing this for the first time. It doesn't mean that you're not going to be doing the thing. You absolutely are. When we say we're going rafting, I mean we are going really rafting. We're going on wild rapids. It's awesome. But we understand that this is your first time, or could be your first time, and therefore we give all the instructions, we go through all the safety procedures, we do everything, we take it step by step, nice and slow, and we only take you as far as you're willing to go. Of course, we're not going to push beyond what you want to do. All of our Find Yourself itineraries, and Find Yourself in Nepal in particular, is super flexible. So what that means is that if there is an activity you don't want to do, like say you just don't want to raft, or you don't want to paraglide, or you don't want to zip line, or maybe you're not feeling it today, you can totally sit out the activity. There is no obligation to do everything that's on the itinerary. You don't have to wake up and do the yoga. You don't have to, do the meditation portions. Whatever you want to sit out, you can. It is completely flexible. This is your adventure holiday. This is your experience, and it's totally geared around you. So for most of our Find Yourself itineraries, and for Find Yourself in Nepal in particular, you don't need to have any, there are no prerequisites. So you don't have to be, somebody who's physically fit or has done anything like this before. These trips are often a great opportunity to wind down somehow, even though we're out doing, it's an action-packed trip, but there is a soothing, meditative element to these trips that really gives people that really nice reset that a lot of us look for. So you definitely don't have to be, training in order to do a trip like this. But at the same time, it is also a good opportunity because these are active trips. So it's always a good opportunity to maybe kickstart a fitness journey if that's something that you've been putting off, or maybe it could be a springboard into something that you want to do later on that could, start that journey for you. But you definitely don't need to have any fitness prerequisites before joining a Find Yourself itinerary, and definitely not for the Find Yourself in Nepal trip. So temperatures can vary quite dramatically. In Kathmandu and Pokhara and even in Bandipur, during the day it can be quite warm. So we're talking about shorts and t-shirts, definitely the high 20 degrees Celsius, so probably close to 30 sometimes. On the portion where we're going to be getting into the river, we actually go down the valley slightly, so it gets even warmer than that. In the evenings, it can get a little bit cooler. So we're talking about teens, probably between 18 to 22 degrees Celsius in Pokhara and Kathmandu. On the trekking portion, where we go up to Gandruk and to Jinu, it can get a little bit colder than that, probably dipping towards the 12 and 13s. That's, of course, if there's no weather. Sometimes we do get a little bit of weather and it can dip towards the 10s, but that's very, very rare. So you can imagine it's a trip where the average temperatures are going to be quite high, but in the evenings they kind of dip a little bit lower, especially when we're in the higher altitude portion of our itinerary and we're doing some of the treks. But even then, it doesn't really get that cold. Stick to the gear list that we provide in the guidebooks, and it will have everything that you need for every eventuality on this trip. So accommodation is very different depending on where we are. In Kathmandu, we typically use the Kathmandu guest house or an equivalent hotel. And the hotel is in the middle of Tamil. It's a really vibrant part of Kathmandu, where you have lots of trekkers, mountaineers, and travelers who like to stay there. Kathmandu Guest House is very famous as a hotel because all the big climbing expeditions at some point stayed there. And they have their rooms actually named after some of the famous climbers who stayed at the hotel. So it's really cool. It's a typical hotel that you can imagine anywhere in the world. So you've got your rooms. There's a beautiful garden, a cafe. They even have an art studio and a museum that just opened. So it's a really well-equipped full hotel. When we leave to go out onto our experiences in the wilder portions of the trail and the wilder portions of this itinerary, we are going to use different kinds of itinerary throughout. So in Bandipur, that's one night. We're going to be staying at a very beautiful guest house in the town. This also is very close to the hotel accommodation, so we're going to have your own bathroom, your own room. There's a restaurant and all of that. It's quite beautiful. When we go up to the trekking portion of it, we'll be staying in tea houses. Tea houses are shared accommodation. They're very basic because we're up in the wild trails of the Himalayas. So you don't have well-equipped hotels out there, but what you do have are some basic accommodation with a common area, a small restaurant with limited choices, but we're not really there for the choices as much as we're there to have this incredible experience. And they're usually family run, so it's really nice. You really get involved in the culture. You get involved with the people. You can sit with them, talk to them. It's really nice. And a lot of people, most people who join actually really enjoy staying at the tea houses as their favorite accommodation throughout the entire itinerary. In Pokhara, we also stay at a hotel, the equivalent of Kathmandu guest house. And it's right in the middle of town, same thing as the other hotels in the itinerary. So you can expect your own private bathroom within each room. You can expect to have a restaurant as well, and the amenities of that standard of hotel. So throughout the entire itinerary, we're spending 2 nights in tea houses, and the entire rest of the trip is staying in hotels. It is possible to have a single accommodation for the nights spent at the hotels on the trip, but it is not possible to get a single accommodation at the tea houses because the tea houses they're designed to be shared accommodation. In some instances, they just don't have enough rooms available to us to be able to provide each person with 1 room. So we always try our best, but what we can guarantee is that you will have a single accommodation during the hotel nights of the trip. And for the 2 nights of the tea houses up on the trail, it's a shared accommodation, normally 2 by 2 with somebody from the same gender. The tea houses do offer showers. Some of them charge a couple of hundred rupees, which is a couple of dollars, to use the hot water. But throughout this entire trip, you will have access to showers, and of course, in the tea houses, there is the opportunity to shower there as well. So we never really have an issue with that. The only thing to consider is that at the tea houses, sometimes if we arrive late, the water boilers are charged with solar panels. So if the solar panels have already exhausted their storage, then it wouldn't be possible for us to shower in the evening, but you would be able to shower the next day for sure. So it's never been an issue, but something to flag because sometimes it does happen, and it's good to just have that expectation. Altitude is not an issue on this experience because the maximum altitude that we reach during the trekking portion in the foothills of the Himalayas at the lower Annapurna region is 2,200 meters. That is not high enough for altitude exposure to be a major concern. Regardless though, we will have all the necessary equipment with us and the necessary medications in case there's any eventuality. But on this trip, it really doesn't happen. We have to go much higher into the 3000s and have a longer exposure to it for us to actually have any real concern for altitude. So on this adventure, we're going to have a duffel bag with us and a day pack. Day pack is everything you need for the day. So when we're out doing rafting, there isn't much. It's just a change of clothes because you're not going to carry your backpack onto the boat with us. When we're trekking, it's the layers you need for that day. So typically the waterproof layers, maybe an extra layer for warmth, your snacks for the trail, water, of course. So it's just really what you need for, after you depart the tea house in the morning when we're trekking, and what you need for that period until we arrive to the next tea house. Everything else goes in the duffel bag. So the duffel bag will have your sleeping bag. It'll have all the rest of the things that you don't need for the day. And that will go ahead with the porters, and it'll be at the next accommodation when we arrive there. For the days where we're not trekking, we're doing other activities and we're moving from place to place, so say from Kathmandu to Bandipur, the duffel bags will go with the car all the way to Bandipur. So you'll have access to it when we're in Kathmandu, just before we leave, and then you'll have it again when we arrive to Bandipur, but you won't have access to it normally in between. So that's why we have a backpack with us, and so that's so we can have access to what we need for, just the day things. It's generally a good idea to have around $200 US on you, or the equivalent. We say US dollars because that's the easiest currency to exchange if you want to exchange it into rupees, and often a lot of vendors and places will actually take dollars as well. So dollars are a good currency to have on you when you're in Nepal. And $200, of course, it depends on you and what you like to buy. If you're going to go and buy gifts for everybody in the family, then maybe that might not be enough, or maybe it will, depends on what you buy. So what we could say is that typically $200 is enough to cover any extras you might need. Keeping in mind that all the meals are covered by us, all the accommodation, everything is basically covered. It's just your discretionary personal spending on extras like, extra drinks at dinner, or buying snacks and things like that, and gifts and stuff of that nature along the trail. That's separate from the discretionary tip that is completely up to you. So we typically advise that a $75 would be a good tip for all the individuals. What we do is we collect it all together, and then we pass it on to the various members of the local team who participate in helping us, from our guides on the trails to the drivers and the different people who you're going to meet along the way, who are going to make your adventure possible. So we think that $75 is typically a fair tip to go for, but it's entirely up to you. That's a recommendation. And then of course you can go a little bit over, a little bit under. That's totally on you. Nepal is the most spectacular country on the planet as far as I'm concerned. Nobody ever goes to Nepal the one and only time. And I know that from myself. When I went to Nepal for the first time, I went there thinking, okay, I'm doing this, but we'll see what happens. And I've been back to Nepal 2 times a year ever since. It's a country that just means so much to me. The energy is on a different level. The people are on a different level. The vibe is on a different level. The mountains are gigantic. The nature is wild. It's spectacular. And the Find Yourself in Nepal itinerary is amazing because it's a wonderful overview of the entire country. So you get to do a little bit of trekking and get to see some of the highest mountains in the world from where we'll be trekking. It's incredible. You get to go into the rainforest. You get to go, along the wild rivers that are coming down from the glaciers of these giants. You get to experience the yoga and meditation, and Nepal is the birthplace of a lot of these mystical schools that are that have so much, like, they've permeated the global psyche somehow and become something that we are all attached to, whether we've been to Nepal or we haven't. So this trip really gives you a wonderful overview. It's also a great combination of pushing a little bit, but at the same time relaxing. It's a great combination of adrenaline. You're flying, you're jumping, you're racing down rapids, and then at the same time you've got meditation, you've got yoga, you've got sound bowl healing. We even do massage on this trip as part of the trip. So it's this incredible balance, and it's a wonderful reset. If a reset is what you're looking for, if an adventure holiday is what you're looking for, and if you want to really feel like you can go back as just a brand new person, then this is the trip for you.